Thursday edition, kind of a meandering edition. Who am I kidding? I'm usually meandering. But a couple things here. First of all, we got to give up a lot of love to Director Matthew, who's producing from the house today. I'm at the house today for a very specific reason, because now he's got COVID. Sorry, I put your business out there, Matthew, but it's all right. Everybody gets it. We all got the COVID. You probably got it from me. You probably got it from me. If you're watching on Warchant TV, then you can smile at the video that was just, but it was your turn, just like it was mine. Neither one of us have had it, and we got it both within 2 weeks. I don't think I gave it to you.
We both had good runs, but we finally.
It's funny you look at it that way because, well, this is the first time we've had it that we know of. So admittedly, like everybody else, once COVID happened, you can no longer view a normal cold the same way you used to. Like now, if you get a cold, you're like, "Ooh, I think I got the COVID." You know, it's just that's just like immediately the first thing. And I don't know. I was sick last year during the spring game, or just before the spring game, if you recall. I was knocked out. I could not go and do that thing, and I tested myself 3 times over and never tested positive. I was sure I had it because it was really hardcore, but I tested negative. I don't know. This last time, I definitely tested positive, and you have too. So I want to commend you for producing today's show, sort of a makeshift show. There will not be a Libations Friday show, so today is a Libations Thursday. And a couple points of content here. You get today's show, but also on warchant.com, Ira's new article, a 321, talking about the preparedness of Florida State and the administration for what comes next in the landscape of college football. A lot of talk about that today on the show. That's really kind of the omnipresent thought we're having right about now. How could it be anything else? When's the next big thing going to happen? How soon will we know how these moves are affecting Florida State and what possibilities, what doors they open, if any, for the ACC, for the member institutions that are not part of currently the Big Two, as it's known, the SEC and the Big Ten. And of course, if you want to extrapolate that out further, it's really more about ESPN and Fox and others that will be gobbling up the rights to live sports. Who gets what? I mean, CBS is going to try to get back into play, obviously. You know that Apple, Netflix, Amazon, all of this, there's going to be a landing spot for these teams that don't get into the Big Two. But to be sure, we want to be part of those two conferences, at least as it stands now, because obviously that's where the money is at. So day, whatever this is, post USC, UCLA announcing that they were going to the Big Ten. I don't know that until we kick the football off, or at least until practice starts for Florida State, which is a couple weeks from now, guys. Until that happens, I think this is the only overriding subject matter that people are going to really want to delve into on a daily basis. I mean, you're probably going to get tired of listening to me talk about it. I'm probably going to get tired of talking about it, but it's not lost on me the importance of it. And, people, I said it on yesterday's show, say it again here today. Nobody likes to be in limbo. You can deal with bad news. You can deal with circumstances that are less than ideal. You can deal with tasks that you don't want to perform, that you don't want to do, but are necessary. They're a means to an end. It's not unlike when you were a kid. You didn't want to do all of those chores, but you were rewarded for doing all those chores. Perhaps you mowed the lawn and you got $10. That's what I did. Or you cleaned your room and you did this and this, and that allowed for an allowance, which meant that you could go do things with your friends. And so while you did those things, you thought, this sucks, but I got to do these things because I want to ultimately get the reward of going with my friends to do these other things. Well, I mean, I think that we sit around kind of talking about what's going to happen on a daily basis until we hear the news of what's the other shoe going to drop. Well, for now, let's just tidy up here. Let's get our house in order. Let's get everything going in the right direction. We'll talk about the actual football here soon enough, but let's make sure our ducks are in a row so that ultimately we're in a position, and that's what we want to know is happening, that we're in a position to succeed. We're in a position to make the best of an otherwise difficult situation. I do like knowing that, it's not just us in this difficult situation, that we're a major brand and that the other major brands in this conference feel the same sort or are addled with the same sort of angst that we feel, because I think that probably puts them in a position to maybe align themselves and perhaps make this a weightier endeavor, maybe with a little bit more influence. There's a thought that if Florida State and Clemson and Miami and North Carolina were to join forces, if you will, and put pressure on the ACC, that maybe something could be worked out. I don't know what is or is not true. I do know that behind the scenes, these are the same sort of talking points, the negotiations, the wranglings that we talk about on a daily basis on this show that are happening behind the scenes, because the difference between the conversations we're having here, which is largely speculative and also reactionary to the news of the day, whether that's out of the Big 12, Pac-12, Big 10, SEC, you name it. The difference is our conversations are a reaction to that. But meanwhile, while they are reacting to that behind the scenes in the upper brass of the administrations, they have lawyers involved in their conversations telling them what they can and cannot do, and attorneys debating what is possible and what you can and cannot do. So I don't know how quickly. My point is, I just don't know how quickly that gets resolved. There is great hope that it is sooner rather than later. Also, to mention content again, Top 40, we did 6 through 10. It'll be up later today on the website, warchant.com, 6 through 10. I can tell you that I thoroughly enjoyed talking about Tatum Bethune. I thoroughly enjoyed talking about, there's 3 offensive linemen on this. I'll give you that hint. But this is a group that I think is almost certain to excel this year and be a big catalyst for Florida State's turnaround. If, in fact, Florida State's going to end up winning 8-9 games, it's going to be because these guys play a huge role. And it's not surprising that the names were what they were. Go watch that today on warchant.com. I was reminded of something today. I will tell you that. It's another little kernel of positivity here for you. Not that you need it, because I can be negative when I need to be. But rather, Dylan Gibbons last year, when you think about his play, I thought of 2 things. He came into the season pretty out of shape. I mean, when he arrived here, he, in my mind, was sloppy. Needed to get a lot better conditioned if he was going to contribute. We ended up having to play him because Florida State's offensive line is not good, and he represented a pretty decent athlete for his size. But as he got in better shape, somewhere in the neighborhood of week 3, week 4 of the season, he had kind of begun to show you that he had transformed, lost some of the ugly weight, and become even better athletically than he was when he arrived. But also remember, the second half of the season, there's a big chunk of that part of the season where he wasn't entirely healthy. And yet, I think it's unquestionable that he was our best offensive lineman. Well, I'll tell you, in the spring, he was in great shape, and he was destroying people. He's going to have a big year, guys. He's going to have a big year. I think he kind of meets that criteria that a Robert Cooper meets, and a few other guys that are in position to get paid. These are guys that have an opportunity, if they have great seasons, to help, again, change Florida State's fortunes on the field, but change their fortunes as well in the way of an NFL contract. I think Robert Cooper can do that. I think Dylan Gibbons can do that. I think Robert Cooper has a chance to get drafted a lot higher than we would have projected just a year and a half ago. He had a great season last year. He's in even better shape this year. He is hungry. It's a get-paid season. It ought to be really interesting to watch him play this year. I don't know how many snaps. That's the whole thing. You talk about how many snaps are you out there for, because if he's in great shape, and for him it's all relative, obviously he's a big man, when he really goes, when he goes hard, he can dominate. He can really dominate. So I guess my point would be that, A, that list is up. That video will be up later today for more content for you. It's always fun to talk about these guys. But my other point is that I realized in this exercise of doing the top 40 again this year, I've said it a lot, I'll say it again here, that roster is better. For as much as we're complaining about recruiting, between the transfer portal, player development, and a couple of hits in recruiting, you know, they got to do better in recruiting. I'm not going to argue with you on that. I'm not in disagreement there. I think there are some mitigating factors right now that really kind of have them recruiting to some extent with one arm tied behind their back. Don't want to get into all of that. Suffice to say, they got to win some games to change minds and change the possibility of garnering more interest from some of the better players in this state. I have more on that today regarding the big three and recruiting in the state of Florida and issues with the best talent in the state leaving the state pretty consistently over the last number of years, hence the downfall of the big three and other items. But the point is, that roster is better. Florida State, Mike Norvell and staff, despite their shortcomings, despite the lack of on-field success, it's better. It is better than it was. And this exercise of doing the top 40 kind of, I think, lays that bare in a good way. All right, we're just getting started. Thanks for being with us. Jeff Cameron, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
You've all heard the demand is high, inventory is low. How do you get a leg up on the rest of the buyers, all making offers on the same house as you? Well, that's a toughie. But the first place I'd suggest you start is with a call to my friends Shannon and the legendary team at Hamilton Home Loan. These guys will set you up with complete pre-approval underwriting. This used to be an upgrade, but nowadays it's got to be standard. If you want to get your offer on a new home pushed to the front of the line, you need a TBD full underwriting approval from the legendary team at Hamilton Home Loans. You'll shorten or even remove your financing contingency, and the sellers will know that your offer is very real and ready to go. It's tough out there, folks, so why not have the advantage of a proven winning team in your huddle? Get pre-approval underwriting from my friends, the legendary team at Hamilton Home Loans. Call them today. It's 844-FSU-LOAN, 844-FSU-LOAN, or just visit FSUHomeLoans.com, FSUHomeLoans.com.
Equal housing lender. NMLS number 200719.
Hey, this is Dustin Rivest. During the pandemic, I noticed restaurants struggling with online ordering and watched as all the major third parties took advantage of our local restaurants and thought there must be a better way, which is why I created FoodiesTakeout.com. The unique thing about Foodies Takeout is that restaurants keep 100% of their order revenue versus splitting upwards of 30% with the third parties like Uber Eats and Bite Squad. At Foodies Takeout, you can find some of your favorite restaurants, such as Jerry's Midtown Cafe, Misty's Kitchen in Frenchtown, Casa Grande, and even El Jalisco. Or if you're on the north side of town, check out Horizons Bar and Grill. Why not give us a try? Head to foodiestakeout.com or text foodies to 230-9456, and I'll even give you 10% off your first meal. Supporting local restaurants has never been easier. Visit foodiestakeout.com.
Now go call Seminole Glass. They'll get on the road and get it done fast.
Your local family-owned glass company, serving the Big Bend for over 15 years. At Seminole Auto Glass, we care about your safety. Insurance will send you wherever it benefits them, not the quality of service. There's a difference in auto glass companies. Trust your local auto glass experts. Seminole Auto Glass.
They handle any kind of broken glass, and you know who they are.
Better call Seminole.
Thank you for calling the Medicare Help Desk. How can we help you?
Can you help me choose the right coverage for myself and my wife?
We sure can. We can help you choose from Medicare Supplements, Medicare Advantage, or standalone prescription drug plans from over 30 different insurance carriers.
How much does it cost? We have a fixed income and can't afford extra expenses.
At the Medicare Help Desk, the consultation is completely free. We are here to help.
Thank you, Medicare Help Desk.
Hi, this is Justin Colvin, founder of the Medicare Help Desk. In my 17 years of experience, I routinely speak to seniors who are overwhelmed by the multitude of coverage options available to them. That's why I created the Medicare Help Desk, a place for you to get clear answers to all your questions and make sense of all the confusion. I've helped thousands of clients, and I live right here in Tallahassee with my family. I am active in my church and wish to help and serve my community. If you need help navigating the Medicare landscape, I'm easy to find. Just visit the MedicareHelpDesk.com. That's the MedicareHelpDesk.com.
Your body is a masterpiece designed to heal itself from within. Learn how to maximize your health by tuning in to Phenomenal Health with me, Dr. Ryan Finn. Saturdays at 2:30. Experience true health today and call Finn Chiropractic at 386-7700.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
I'll answer this one. This is good. Jeff, one of the best balsamic Wednesdays I've ever heard in a while. Hour 2 was lit. That according to Joe on Twitter. It's not balsamic Wednesday. It's Balls McWednesday. And even that's not what you think it is. Okay, it's time to revisit this. I will answer this. I have to remind myself that I've been on the air, I guess, for 23 years. Matthew, how old are you?
I am 26.
You were 3 when the Jeff Cameron Show broke on the airwaves, buddy. 3. Well, over the years, we've amassed any number of sayings or audio clips that we use on repeat that we like, sounders from the show. And I get asked a lot. I never thought this would happen. It's a little bit like how the animals of Section B get asked a lot about why they sing "O Canada." And like a myth grows over time, and it becomes all of a sudden, depending on who you're asking, there's 10 different stories as to how they arrived at doing that. I remember it being my first producer, Dina Davis, and I somehow we were talking about ball sports, baseball, basketball, tennis, soccer, you name it, right? Ball sports on a Wednesday. And it literally was just me blurting out, my goodness, it's just a Balls McWednesday. And I kind of don't know why I did it. It was just sort of tongue in cheek or a joke of some kind. But for marketing purposes or the ability to sell the show or segments on the show, I remember I was asked by the late, great Lee Bowen, do we have things that you could do? So people who go way back and listen to the show and remember its origins will know that we, because I was doing the morning show, the reality was that people well, at least the thought was that people wanted to know the time because they're rushing into work. They needed to know what time it was a lot of times. Now, I always thought this was stupid because every car, even 22, 23 years ago, has a clock in it. I mean, it's not like you get in the car, oh my God, and wore watches. Didn't really exist. Cell phones didn't really exist. So there was a time where everybody wore watches. And I thought, I'm not going to constantly say the time. And so what he did was he said, well, it has to get done. So I said, anybody that calls the show has to give me the time. They would say, hey, Jeff, it's just plain Jim. It's 6:42 a.m. And I'd say, damn Skippy, old school. Later on is what I would say, old school, but damn Skippy is what I originally said. And then he would ask his question. So that was one thing that you could monetize. But then we started to try to monetize days. Balls McWednesday stuck. So it's not balsamic, it's Balls McWednesday. And then we thought we could play it against sports or anybody that sold sporting goods equipment to sponsor the show. I'll tell you a funny story, and I got to give credit where credit's due because, and this is a chance for me to give a quick shout out in a roundabout way. And I'm just reminded of this, and I probably don't do enough of this, and I should. And I don't want to go too down deep into this because I'll get sad. But a shout out real quick to Janine. Janine, you know who you are. Janine was the owner of the Bagel Market Bistro out here on the north side of town. It just closed down, unfortunately. But some of my earliest remotes, and I just found this tape the other day. I did a remote at Brugger's Bagels, and she used to be the manager at Brugger's Bagels, and she always ensured that we had the best setup. And we would come and do shows from Brugger's Bagels. And she learned how to run that place from top to bottom and then set out on her own path and started the bagel market. But the point is, I'm sorry to hear about that place closing, and I wish you well, Janine. But I found the other day trying to organize all the stuff from the shows over the years, and I found all of these promotional items, all these different things. This is crazy, Matthew. I found my first ever, I even posted it on Instagram. First game I ever called play-by-play for was an all-star game for 13-year-olds in baseball, and I found my pass, and it just says Jeff Cameron, radio announcer. Very simple, right? That's what it should just say on my grave. And it was like, and what was weird is I looked at that and I felt nervous all over again. But I can't believe I was nervous about play-by-play for 13-year-olds, but I was. Anyhow, in going through all this promotional stuff, all these items, I found all these cool interviews that I had done and on things that no longer we utilize, like DAT tapes. I don't know if you remember, Matthew, have you ever seen miniature CDs? Have you ever seen a mini CD?
No.
I'll have to bring it in and show you. For about a minute, that technology was utilized. Not very long, but it was, where you had mini discs, they called them, and you recorded on them. I don't know why we thought that was the coolest thing in the world, but they were. We had these different means of recording, and DAT tape was a big one. But I found an old DAT tape from a Brugger's Bagels broadcast that I did that had me talking to David Ross in the Brugger's Bagels while he was a player with the Dodgers. Like, that's crazy. So David swung past the Brugger's Bagels because he heard us doing a live show, and that Janine had all these promos where if you came in during the Jeff Cameron show, it was like buy one bagel, get one free. So yay, Janine, for that, because it lured David Ross into the Brugger's Bagels. And here he is, backup catcher to Paula Duca, I think it was at the time. Remember that name? For the Dodgers, comes in. He's like, hey, man, I've always liked your show. And he sat in there and talked to me, and I have that somewhere on tape. I've got to put together these. I don't know why I'm just prattling on about the history of the show, but it has something to do with you guys calling it, or that guy calling it Balsamic Wednesday and the origins of these things. But I can still remember that it was just me blurting out Balsamic Wednesday. That's all it was. It's not balsamic. And then there's Redemption Thursday, and that was my love. That was born out of my love of gambling and my love of betting on football. And oh, by the way, do you really realize, and Libations Friday is self-explanatory, but if you marry those two, if you think about that right now, Redemption Thursday, we're not that far away. We're not that far away, kids. Redemption Thursday is on the horizon yet again. Get your numbers in order. Libations Friday, we always have a Libations Friday Fest, remember? And we've got to figure out how we're going to do it this year. It's a show, it's a listener appreciation party. And that is always one of my favorite events. But because we played Duquesne this year, you're not exactly going to have it the Friday before you play Duquesne, I don't think, because I don't know what kind of draw Duquesne's going to be with us playing LSU the following week in New Orleans. And I don't want to do the listener appreciation party in New Orleans because not everybody can make that. So maybe we'll have to do it for the first big home game. I don't know. Maybe we'll do it for a watch party. Maybe the Louisville Friday night game. If I don't go cover that and we stay in town, we could do it. That you guys offer up suggestions to Tom and myself as to what we should do for the listener appreciation party that is usually held on a Libations Friday, or it's kind of carried over onto that Saturday, whatever it might be. We've got to figure something out because the time is nigh. Get your coolers together. Make sure that everything's in working order. Tailgating is about to begin. Football is nearly here. Yay! It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Provides commercial, residential, and industrial electrical wiring services, yearly inspections on fire alarms, portable generator sales, and so much more. With 24/7 emergency service and repair, Weston Trawick will be your calm in the storm. Give them a call at 514-0003. Weston Trawick. Professional electrical services day or night. Visit online at westontrawick.com.
Hey, Nole fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Every great construction project, whether it's a new addition or renovation, starts with a plan. At T-Spark, we are excited when our clients contact us to assist with that plan. Through our team of architects, draftsmen, engineers, we can help you with your project's planning and design, potentially saving costs in the long run. Whether you have a residential or commercial project, we look forward to working with you. Call us today or visit us at tsparkconstruction.com. License number CGC 1525336.
Crawfordville Auto and Tire. Crawfordville Auto and Tire. Oh, hey there. I was just singing the praises of Crawfordville Auto and Tire. They do just about everything. Complete engine rebuilds, brakes, shocks, tires, oil change, you name it, they do it. And they offer a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty on all parts and labor. Most of the time, they can service your car the same day and offer towing to help you get to the shop. Now that's something to sing about. Open weekdays from 7:30 in the morning until 6 at night. Crawfordville Auto Repair and Tires.
I don't know if you guys have been reading. I'll give Matt Baker credit. He's doing a piece for the Tampa Bay Times right now that might interest you guys. It's called Inside the Collapse of Florida College Football's Big Three. It's a three-part series. And basically the sub headline is how did the Gators, Seminoles, and Hurricanes go from Big Three to broken? And he was talking about the glory days of Florida's Big Three. The Florida State-Florida game has been hard to stomach lately. And he points out, and Corey Clark has pointed this out a lot too, that there ought to be a 30 for 30 on this rivalry. Because from 1990, for example, to 2000, every matchup between Florida State and the University of Florida was a clash of top 10 teams. Think about that. Every time they met, both in the top 10. 6 of those 10 times, both teams were in the top 5. It does seem like light years ago. When they met, Florida State and Florida, this past November, either team had a winning record. Baker points out the Gators had already fired their head coach and Dan Mullen. Crazy that it was the third time giving the game an interim coach for the third time in the last 4 years. A series that once decided national championships became a series that determines who goes to the Gasparilla Bowl. That, according to Baker, is how far football has fallen in the state of Florida. Quote from former Gator quarterback Shane Matthews, last few years watching and calling the Florida State game, you just don't see the teams like you used to see them. Yeah, no, you don't. Same with FSU Miami, a rivalry that had 3 consecutive top 3 meetings from 91 to 93. The only significance of their last 3 meetings, a loss to a mediocre rival got Willie Taggart fired and was the point of no return for Manny Diaz at Miami. Matt Baker goes on to point out, once the center of college football, Florida's Big Three is broken. Last fall's combined 18-19 record was the worst since 1976. Chris Dorian brings up it's been a downward spiral. If you go, the Big Three rose to power decades ago because of the right people with the right approach at the right time. what is now seemingly an unfathomable downward spiral then began with the polar opposite perfect storm. Wrong people, wrong time, wrong approach. Now, all of the coaches interviewed for this piece, and they go through the overarching themes, and that is whiffing on hires. So Al Golden didn't work out. Willie Taggart didn't work out. Ron Zook didn't work out. Jim McElwain didn't work out. Randy Shannon didn't work out. Manny Diaz now hasn't worked out. One thing that they point out, and some of the players of that era point out, is that there were great assistant coaches on all of those teams who stuck with those programs for long periods of time, and the continuity and the consistency existed in a way that you just haven't seen during this fallen era. And I think that's probably true, but I also think it's the byproduct of the era we're talking about, in which people do not stick around, and the pressure to win because of the monies that we're so frequently talking about is larger and greater than it's ever been, and it's only growing. Now, because I bring this up all the time, it's not just that you need Mike Norvell to succeed because, let's say, you like Mike Norvell or you appreciate his candor or his enthusiasm. I, as a member of the press, certainly appreciate the access, the willingness to have conversations with press to ensure that we get the complete picture. He understands that I need context to do my job on a daily basis every afternoon, talking to you guys, so that even if I disagree with what's happening there, even if I think something is going wrong there, he wants to be able to give me more insight as to their line of thinking. And so he welcomes all of us in. I appreciate that. You can always call over there now and get information. So I want Mike to win for those reasons, selfishly. Also, because I'm a Nole, I want Mike to win. But I also don't want to start over, because when you do, you start from scratch. And every time that we have to start over, you fall further behind than you were before. New coaches have to come in. New relationships have to be formed with recruits. You lose out on the next class. It is almost always a failure, that first class for a new coach, because of the way things have changed in recruiting. And so that's just another cycle of not bringing in great players. Usually if you're firing a coach, that's on the heels of several cycles in which you haven't been able to bring in consistently anyhow elite players, or enough of them. And so starting over is no good. No bueno. We don't want that. We don't want to have to continue to do this. So I don't even care if you love him, hate him, are indifferent, think we should have done something else. You need him to succeed, just like Florida is going to hope that Napier can, and obviously Cristobal down in Miami, because nobody wants to continue to start over. It sets you further back. And then we're having this conversation, and they're writing these articles 3 years from right now. Only the list has gotten longer of impotence. How many seasons you've not been able to do what your history suggests you should be able to do, and the cachet you built up during those times. So that is maddening. I also don't think that we're ever going back to an era where that kind of consistency in the state with the big three is going to be possible, for a variety of reasons. But I do think that all three currently have coaches in place that you can feel pretty good about. Look, obviously right now, Miami's got the new car smell. They brought in one of their own. Cristobal is a guy that will say the right things publicly. He'll present an aura of toughness. He was a lineman. He's having a splash in recruiting right now. They seem to have recommitted dollars to the program. So they're, in their minds, moving in the right direction. Billy Napier is as well thought of a coach as there was in the non-Power 5 schools. So there's a guy that a lot of people have had their eye on ever since he was an assistant with Nick Saban. And this is a guy that if you sit down and talk to him, and if you certainly have read any of the articles about him while he was at Louisiana, you know that he has a plan. He has a long-term vision. We all fall for people, and we like to hear people's plans articulated succinctly in a way that makes sense and resonate, in a way that you can follow and believe in and trust and invest in. He's got that. We'll see if it works. Right now, it's very early, way too early, but he's not exactly kicking ass, at least amongst the minds of the fans there at Florida, with a couple of recruiting snafus, but it's too early. He hasn't even coached a game there yet. He's going to be fine in all likelihood. I'm certainly rooting against him. But for Mike Norvell, we get back to this critical season, because it is interesting to note, while we speak of the big three and the current condition they find themselves in. I would say that as we do so, I have noticed momentum, and this is kind of surprising to me. I have noticed some momentum of thought, and that is that if Mike were to go 6-6 or worse, that he would likely be fired. Now, I do think the timeline for Mike Norvell and the need for him to succeed was accelerated when Alford became the athletic director. And it's not because Mike Alford's maybe perhaps aggressive, and he's illustrated certainly a willingness to get in there and get after it and make changes the second he realizes that changes need to be made. Obviously the Link Jarrett thing, the Mike Martin Jr. thing, we talked about that. We talked about the Lonnie Alameda raise and extension. We talked about what ended up being at first a disaster, but then a pretty good effort to land on your feet with the soccer situation. So he has shown a capacity to act, and perhaps it certainly it does point to some autonomy that he has as athletic director that previous athletic directors did not have. The reason that's important is that historically speaking, you understand, athletic directors like to have their guys in place. I'm not going to have my tenure as an athletic director adversely affected, colored in a way that perhaps doesn't put me in the greatest light because of somebody else's hire previous. So now I inherit this guy and he goes out and is average. Well, that rubs off on me. That makes me look average, and I had nothing to do with hiring that guy. And I probably, because most of these guys, and you think about their personalities, right? These are people that can read a room. These are smart, charismatic individuals, but behind the scenes, these individuals have plans and they have opinions. And they care deeply that they are heard, and they're paid handsomely to make those decisions and get it right, because if they don't, they get fired. So their ass is on the line, in the jackpot, if you will, from the second they take the job. And they're not going to spend too much time being patient with somebody else's hire. So I do think to some extent the timeline for Norvell sped up a little bit when we changed out athletic directors and went to Mike Alford. Now, it's not so willy-nilly because the money is so much different in football than it is baseball. So you can't just say that because he was willing to act quickly and fire Mike Martin Jr. With the first sign of real adversity to go on to Link Jarrett, that he's willing to just do this, because the money is very, very different. I mean, you're talking about hiring a coach for $800,000 as opposed to what you would have to do if you let Mike Norvell and staff go and rehire a whole new staff, millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. It's a big difference. So it's a weightier decision, and it's going to probably one you want to kind of work through a little bit longer. But back to where we talk about the big picture. At the end of all of this, and we'll have time to evaluate, and we've talked a lot about what we think is going to happen for Mike Norvell this year, what may or may not happen for Mike Norvell this year. Not to you guys, and I'll let this marinate a little bit, because I've always gotten into this argument, even with my family. I have extended family members. My stepdad, for example, went to the University of Florida for law school. He has a law degree from the University of Florida. He is, for a long time, has been a Bull Gator. He loves the University of Florida. I have other brothers that one went to JU. The point is all throughout the state, right? So we would always debate the state of college football in the state of Florida. And you have some friends and family members that would prefer to see, let's say you're a Nole, Florida State operating at peak efficiency and elite status, but also have Florida and Miami in a similar sense. Yes, maybe not be as good as Florida State if you're a Nole, but a threat and dominant, and the rivalry, as it were, yesteryear, 1990 to 2000, something along those lines. Others say, no, screw them. I hope they suck eternally while we dominate. And it's easy because the fan in me says, yeah, the latter. The latter feels good. But I think perhaps for brand and for overall perception and even to some degree recruiting, it might actually be best if we could get back to a time where we more resembled the dominant big three in the state of Florida that we were so many seasons ago. I bring it up every time this subject comes up, and I continue to smile when I think about it because I still have it. You guys may remember, some of the older members of my demographic here on the radio side of things will remember this, but the Sports Illustrated cover that had the state of Florida and college football, where college football dominates or lives or is, I can't remember the headline, but it was about the state of Florida and how there was nobody in the country doing more great things on a football field than the big three of this state, and how the state came to dominate the sport. And I never thought it at the time, because this is many moons ago, but when you looked at it, you felt a sense of pride. I don't know if that's a weird sense of tribalism, like, yay, Florida, yay, the state of Florida, because I don't often do that. I have to make fun of the state of Florida, especially the innards of the state of Florida. But it was something where you could beam a little bit, where you could feel a little bit of pride. And I do think monetarily, brand, you name it, big picture, long term, it would probably be best if we could sooner rather than later get back to this state being housing three dominant programs. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Hey man, have you heard the sound? Pentalpha Jewelry's the best in town. For rings, diamonds, earrings, bracelets, and more. Pentalpha Jewelry, Jewelry Store.
Hey, this is Greg Tish. I want to tell you about my first experience at Pentalpha Jewelry. It was many, many years ago, and my grandparents took me up there for a special occasion to buy me a necklace. I still remember how amazing the customer service was. Fast forward to today, and I can still go in there and get the same great customer service at Pentalpha Jewelry. Nothing has changed, not even their location, 2903 Apalachee Parkway, where they've always been. Now sing along with me, and I'll see you at Pentalpha Jewelry.
Pentalpha Jewelry, Pentalpha Jewelry, Pentalpha Jewelry, all the real nice boys.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Physical stress on our bodies can take its toll as the years go by. Whether you're looking to get back into an old sport or just want to spend more time outdoors to explore all life has to offer in our beautiful city, the dedicated team at TOC is here for you every step of the way. You can trust TOC for all your orthopedic needs. And now, scheduling an appointment has never been easier. Just visit teamtoc.com and click schedule online. That's teamtoc.com.
This is Kyle, Service Manager from Barano Heating and Air. Schedule an appointment from your mobile device to learn about our Total Comfort Service Program. With guaranteed same-day service, 15% off necessary repairs, and $25 berry bucks to use towards air filters and other products. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air. Any day, anytime, anywhere. Online at baranoac.com.
Florida license CAC 1816-186.
Well. Hey, Jeff, look at this place. Yeah. Well, doing well. It's been a while since I've seen you, brother, but, it hasn't been a while since I've been over to Gordo's. I go there on the regular because of you, Eddie.
Well, we keep you regular.
Well, that's true, but I think of Gordo's as a place to sit down, have a cold beer, talk to your friends, enjoy the sports, eat the delicious food. But I think of you as Uncle Eddie, a man who takes care of his people and takes care of the town.
I appreciate that, Jeff. Hey, and we'll keep you regular.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Coming up next, more of The Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT, Gretna, Tallahassee.
Before moving on, I want to piggyback off the segment I just did. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Kind of interesting. A friend of mine asked me recently to go back to the dynasty era teams, and I was like, okay, so you want me to go 88, 2000? Like, what are you looking at here? And he was saying, well, we need some players that were not All-American, former NFL type players. And they wanted to reach out to some players from teams from that era who played and certainly would be recognizable names, but they're not the, Peter Warricks of the world, or the Chris Winkies of the world, or, they're guys that started. They're maybe Todd Reboel, right? Somebody like that. I use him a lot because he was one of my favorite linebackers here for some reason. But it's interesting because he wanted me to provide for him a list of names that they could invite back to games for this upcoming season. It's a promotional type thing. And he was like, yeah, don't give me the superstars. Just give me some guys that if they were to be here and paid to be here in a box or something, people would know who they were. They would remember the team that they were on, all that sort of thing, but they aren't the superstars. And so I was kind of intrigued, and he kind of wanted it to be representative of each segment group. And I just started going back in my memory banks, and I started thinking about those teams. And then that turned into me going down a rabbit hole. And I think a lot of you guys do this too. It's fun to do. I went from 87 to 2002, basically. And I just went year by year and looked at the roster. And in addition to just looking at the roster, I looked at the hometowns, and I started paying close attention to where everybody was from, how they arrived at Florida State. And what it did was trigger memories of when we won those recruiting battles. And I remember, this is even before I got into media, but, that's when recruiting, getting that information, you could call 1-800 number. And then, I can remember the dawn of Warchant. I can remember my interactions early in media with Tom Block and Rick Ballou and guys like that, and certainly Eric Llewellyn, and then getting to know Gene and all these. We would sit around and talk about certain kids, and there was an air of mystery to a lot of these kids because the internet really wasn't a thing. Social media certainly wasn't a thing. And so you just didn't have your eyes on a lot of these kids, but you'd heard about how good they were. You knew their stats. You knew, like, if a kid played at Pensacola, Escambia, or a kid played down at Lakewood where I was from, or where, you knew what they had achieved. And so you thought, oh man, he's obviously fast, or he's big, or he's whatever he is. Well, I was just talking about that Matt Baker piece. And while they went into problems in terms of the wrong approach for the big three, they did get into some mention of facilities, right? He referenced an article where there was a list of nation's top 25 facilities. Only Florida of the big three had what was considered top 25 facilities. And it's a subjective list, but they were at 19. But that was 5th in the SEC East and 10th in the conference, 12th if you're going to count Oklahoma and Texas coming in. And so, the idea that the facilities at Florida State, Miami, and Florida the big threes averaged somewhere in the neighborhood of between Illinois and Kentucky. Well, that's not good. That's not ideal. But he went on to get into the more important point. And people who have covered recruiting for a very long time and are better experts than I when it comes to where these kids are from, what high school coach they played for, the alliance they may have with a certain university. We know certain pockets of the state tend to produce players that go to certain schools. Maybe their coach has created some sort of lifeline or through line to Florida State or Florida or whatever it might be, right? These are the things that certainly happen all the time. And it got me thinking about the exercise I did with my friend, was that going down the list of players, and there's so many great names. So, it's fun when you do that. Like you come across a Tiger McMillan, or you come across an Ampley, or you come across, whomever, right? Somebody that you thought about their career later on, Darrell Bush, you thought about their career later on, and you realize, man, they were such good players. I was thinking about Sean Key, Guys like that. It's just names from yesteryear that played prominent roles, but they weren't superstars. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that that's where the big three are getting killed, is the talent exodus referenced in that Matt Baker article. And that has been explained to me by people in the recruiting world for a very long time, that, Jeff, the best players in this state, the elite players, and we know the state of Florida is absolutely loaded with superstar talent. The elite players in this state, for the most part, went to Florida State, Florida, or Miami. I hearken back to the article. In January 2017, Ray McLeod, Deion Kane, Artavius Scott posed for a photo together at Raymond James Stadium to celebrate their historic triumph. All three had grown up in the Tampa Bay area. All three were top 90 national recruits, and all three won a national championship in their home state of Florida, but not for Florida, not for Florida State, and not for Miami, but for Clemson. Of all the problems facing the big three, the 24 analysts, coaches, and former players interviewed for this series agreed that none are bigger than the talent exodus. It drives Catapult Sports scout Dwight Thomas mad. Every time I watch the games on TV, we're going to see those guys, said Thomas, who's been involved in Florida prep football for 50-plus years, coached the Gators, NFL legend Emmitt Smith at Escambia High. Quote, but they ain't going to be in our uniforms, and they'll be beating us. The numbers are striking. In 1991, the state produced 15 of the Tampa Tribune's top 100 national recruits. The big three signed 13. In 2021, the state produced 13 of the 247 Sports Composites top 100 national recruits. The big three signed 4. The drain is so significant that it's drawn the attention of the governor. I don't want to see our people going to Alabama and Clemson, said DeSantis. I know they've got great programs, but I think there's nothing better than winning a national championship in your home state. Apparently not. Since the state's last championship, national championship, 2013, Florida State University, 17 Floridians have started for title teams elsewhere. Georgia title hopes began to turn in January with a blocked field goal by 5-star defensive lineman Jalen Carter from Apopka High, followed by a 67-yard run by a top 50 recruit, James Cook, Miami Central. On down the list we go. And that is the biggest. And it is fun to play that game and go through that exercise that I just alluded to, because he's not wrong. When you go and look at our rosters, just take the dynasty eras and go look. Do what I did. Go 87 to 2000 if you want, whatever, 2001. And look at those players' names. Remember what they accomplished. Have fun with the images that flash before your eyes. Remember those teams, the ones that came this close to winning a national championship, the ones who got screwed by circumstance or bad luck or weather or injury, or those that got a rough call in a game that changed the fortunes and whether or not they could have won a national championship. The point was they were always on the precipice, always that close. If they weren't winning it, they were playing for it. If they weren't playing for it, they were a game away from having played for it. And you'll find on those rosters time and again, Florida, state of Florida, state of Florida, state of Florida, state of Florida. Oh, we beat out Florida for that kid. We beat out Miami for that kid. Oh, went into their backyard and took them out of Miami Central. Florida, here you go, Tampa, St. Pete, Jacksonville. Oh, look at that. They're Daytona. You just on down the list time and again. And yeah. You look around at Clemson's teams, you look at Alabama, you look at Georgia, you look at these teams, and you realize, a lot of kids just rolling on into the state. And taking players away. It's pretty brutal. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3. Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
how it became a thing? I
The
think
middle
I know.
finger in general?
Yeah, no, giving someone the middle finger.
You know this?
I think so. I'm going to get the countries wrong and the time
So
wrong.
you don't
other
know
than
it.
that,
You don't know it.
He's got this locked.
When it happened and where,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
so
think-
maybe
think,
the how?
I think Britain's in a war with France sometime 300 years ago. And what they would do with French soldiers when they captured them was cut off their middle fingers so they couldn't use the bows to shoot, because that's how they shot people back then, was with bow and arrows. And so if you took the middle finger away,
I got to tell
you couldn't do it. So when the French beat the British in a battle or something, they all showed them, hey, we still got our middle fingers. And that's how it.
So by the way,
I'm gonna look this up during the break.
I might be 100% wrong.
But I want to
just made that up.
I want to note something. If in fact that's not true, that is the greatest and most plausible explanation for something that you could completely make up.
Yeah.
And have us buy into that I've ever heard.
I might have dreamed it. I don't know where that came from.
100% accurate. Kevin writes, what's more likely, Corey's story about French soldiers lopping off middle fingers or Destin Hill playing French?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good
I'm gonna go with
point.
your story.
Yeah, I like your story.
Yeah, what if Destin Hill shows
I think
up?
it's accurate. I don't
If
know.
he does, he should give you the bird.
Who would make that up?
Yeah, nobody would make that up. It's certainly.
Oh, there's all kinds of stuff.
It's
that
a
are made up.
reasonable explanation because it doesn't make sense otherwise. What does your middle finger have to do with saying "f you" to someone?
Somebody's arguing that they may have traced this all the way back to ancient Greece.
That's what I said. It was England against ancient Greece. What did you hear? Because that's what I said.
Something about France.
No, I don't know. Who knows? It's somewhere over
My
there.
favorite people are the people that still make up stuff and BS, even in the age of Google.
Yeah, you can Google it.
Yeah,
back in the
2
day,
seconds, yeah.
back in the day,
Arguments
people could
went
lie.
on for years.
Oh, and people could just make
Years.
stuff
Yeah.
up and lie and whatever. But now we have Google. You stop.
Yeah, I got into a big argument at a Braves game talking about the Mets Red Sox '86 because my buddy swore that if Buckner fields the ball, they win the game.
No, that's not
and
true.
I'm like, no, it was tied. He
It
goes,
was tied.
no, it wasn't. I promise you. And I'm like, I promise you, you're wrong. But it was 1991. We couldn't look it up.
There's no internet.
I remember I was in college and Life Cereal put out a cereal
and
box
Mikey.
with Mikey on it.
And they said he was dead.
But for years, we always thought he was dead. I
Yeah.
thought he was dead from the time I was
He's
like 10
fine.
until
He's middle-aged,
they put him on
living
the
in
cereal
Ireland.
box. And it's
Yeah,
like,
they
what?
said he died from eating Pop Rocks
Pop
and
Rocks
drinking
and
a
Coke.
Coke.
Yes.
But
Crazy how that
everybody
goes.
knew
Nobody
that.
could look any of this stuff up. That
Yeah.
was a universal belief.
Everybody-
Every kid, you could take a kid from Oregon and talk to a kid from Pennsylvania about, oh, Mikey, that's terrible.
Yeah, and Richard, and you've heard about
awful.
Richard Gere, right?
Yeah.
Like, how did
The
those things
wor-
start?
The world was a better
There wasn't-
place.
The
It
Rod
wasn't viral.
Stewart one.
Yeah, but it
Well,
wasn't.
I mean, the Rod Stewart one, we can't repeat.
These
but
are all
that
these are
was
all
insane.
different
Richard
level
Gere too, but
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
you hear these and you're like,
Yeah.
how did y'all hear it? Like, how does that stuff spread? It
I
doesn't
remember
make any
being way
sense.
too young for somebody to tell me the Rod Stewart story.
Yeah.
So what
yeah.
are we? What?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
That's
Hey, it sounds plausible.
That's crazy.
I think if you Google it today, the FBI show up at your house.
Right here in our hometown is a local spot where you can take a break from all your worries. A place where everybody knows his name is Smitty's Tap House and Grill. Smitty's deep appreciation for fine craft beers and tasty bar treats sets the stage as the ideal local neighborhood pub. Want to know more? Just visit Smitty'sTapHouse.com to check out the full menu. Come see us at Smitty's Tap House and Grill on Thomasville Road, just north of Cary Forest Parkway. You'll be glad you came, where everybody knows his name.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Good to be with you. Oh, by the way, first of all, if you're watching on Warchant TV, like and subscribe. Always bring that up. Also, I want to direct your attention over to warchant.com. Another edition. It'll be up either later tonight or early tomorrow. But we did 6 through 10, the top 40 countdown. And it was kind of a fun one to do in that, these are players that's the group of players we talked about today, which includes Robert Cooper, and I don't want to give away too much, but and a transfer like Tatum Bethune. These are guys that play the game in a way, and I'm going to talk about this coming up, about the childlike zeal that certain players have when they play sports that kind of makes you gravitate towards them. I'm gonna bring that up in a minute, just because there's a guy that I think we should be watching more of if we can. But for Florida State, this group here, and it was me and Ira and Corey talking about this group. These are guys that are fun to root for. Now, I root for all of Florida State's players because I want Florida State to be good. But these are guys that are a lot of fun to root for, in that they work hard, they play the right way, and they have a certain what for to them to go along with the enthusiasm for the game. Like, these are the guys that coaches love, because if you're really, really good and you play hard and you work hard off the field and you're able to lead vocally as well as physically, well, that's perfect. Now you've got a guy who's an elite player. You got a guy who works really hard, a guy who puts in the time, the guy who leads others, the guy who cares about his teammates, the guy who gets people lined up, and the guy who's uber productive. When your best player is your hardest worker, as they say, you're going to be all right, because people have no choice but to get in line and follow at that point. And I think this group, and really anybody in that top 10, should probably represent that. But this was a fun one today. Also, our own Ira Schafel, managing editor, Warchant.com, talking about the uncertainty that reigns supreme in college athletics right now. You can read his story. He had a 3-2-1. And one thing that's in that observation is that, and he writes this, and I won't read directly from it for the entirety, because you can go read it yourself on Warchant.com. But he writes that FSU's administration sensed that this was coming. And he kind of gets into Michael Alford's background. And he wants big things to happen. And he took over in December, and he's got blessings from the highest levels at Florida State. Richard McCullough, the president, board of trustees, chairman Peter Collins, those guys. Some of the changes that they were making and are making were obvious things that they needed to do, things that they're doing to the locker room, things that they're doing to Doak Campbell Stadium, all those kinds of things. But also because they are looking to the future of college football and what you have to do to ready yourself to be, to be proactive and not to panic, and to put yourself in the best possible position to be one of the brands. And I've talked a lot about this too, is that we're moving away from solely markets being the thing and moving much more towards brands being a big deal as these conferences, these two super conferences, latch on. So it's kind of fun that way. And really all we're waiting on now, and Ira writes about this, it's a really good 3-2-1. Go to warchant.com to read it. The grant of rights is a real problem. And, I think we know that the inevitability of Florida State and other name brands in the ACC, namely Clemson, Miami, North Carolina, we know that it's inevitable that group, that foursome, you could maybe expand to 6, because Lord knows, and many of you guys have touched on this in the chat, and I've talked about it before too, politics in North Carolina has its hand in everything. And the money players and the influential people that are going to have Duke's back in all of this to go along with North Carolina, NC State to be sure as well, means that they're going to try to get a seat at the table too. And so I think predicting how this looks, predicting when this happens, predicting how these teams get out from under the grant of rights, leave the ACC, put themselves in the most advantageous position. It really is kind of a fool's errand to guess when that's going to take place, because right now it is the lawyers that are spending an awful lot of time figuring out, is there a chink in the armor? Is there a loophole? Is there something that would allow these teams that desire to leave this conference? And I think that if you're being aggressive, and if your head is not in the sand and you're objective, you recognize now that the ship has sailed. There's nothing that the ACC is going to do long-term to put themselves in the same sort of financial position that the Big Ten and the SEC are in. You could salvage something of the ACC and radically change what it is if you brought in and created some sort of coast-to-coast league, and you removed some of the teams from this league, and you removed some of the teams from the Pac-12, and you took the most desirous of those programs, those institutions in those two leagues, joined them as one with a Pacific division and an Atlantic division, and the winners of those divisions meet in the ACC championship and play in wherever, Las Vegas, who knows? Like, you could do something like that, and it sounds almost plausible. That would also allow the Olympic sports not to have to travel clear across Hell's Half Acres, because you would just stay within the ACC if you're volleyball, for example. And, you know, you can rotate a situation where you cross over and play in football and in basketball a certain number of teams from the Pacific coast. But everybody else, all the non-revenue sports, you'd keep it on your side of the coast, right? Your side of the country. I guess you could do that, but would that garner the same sort of annual take for your teams that are getting paid by Fox and the Big Ten and ESPN and the SEC are getting? Because ultimately, even if you can salvage it, but you're still making $20, $30, $40 million per university less than those schools, you're going to be second rate. And I don't think that anybody's signing up to be second rate. I think that most realize there's not a lot that can be done here to salvage this thing. But now it becomes about the legal wrangling. And, again, I guess the concern is that because nothing perhaps can be done immediately due to the grant of rights, that Florida State and Clemson and Miami and whomever else, for the time being, have to sit and play in this conference, reap the negative aspects of that, which is far less cash than everybody else that you're seeking to compete against, recruit against, bring in coaches against, all of that, right? You may have to do that for 3 or 4 years till it becomes tenable for you to break the agreement, the money dropping each year that you're moving towards the end of the grant of rights deal. Yeah, I've got some of those concerns too. You don't want to fall further behind as, again, those you compete against continue to line their pockets and do better and better and better. I do like the Big Ten having been delayed in announcing their contract, their television contract deal, because to me, that again speaks to the fact that they had more negotiations to do. We saw the fruits of those negotiations with Southern Cal and UCLA. Who's to say that they're not talking to 2, 4, 6 more teams? We know the SEC, who's always been very, very aggressive, is not going to sit idly by and allow the Big Ten to trump them in their maneuverings. It just happened for the first time in a long time that a conference not named the SEC was able to lay it down on the SEC and say, gotcha. Yeah, but that won't lead to them being subservient. They're going to say, oh, okay, I don't know, this is the game, this kind of fun and games we're having around here. This is what we're going to do. So I have hope. I hope it doesn't take too long. All of that to say, go read Iris 321 on warchant.com. Next week, we'll do the top 5 in the top 40 countdown, Warchant's top 40 countdown. I think you guys can easily predict now if you've watched the other versions of what that top 5 is going to look like. You probably already knew that. Most of us agreed on that top 5. But it is exciting this year as opposed to the year before and the year before and the year before, even through 20, like the 1 through 20. And maybe even beyond that, gets you kind of excited. So that's good news, too. All right, it's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Stay with us. Kind of a Libations Thursday edition.
We've all heard that demand is high, inventory is low. How do you get a leg up on the rest of the buyers, all making offers on the same house as you? Well, that's a toughie. But the first place I'd suggest you start is with a call to my friends Shannon and the legendary team at Hamilton Home Loan. These guys will set you up with complete pre-approval underwriting. This used to be an upgrade, but nowadays it's got to be standard. If you want to get your offer on a new home pushed to the front of the line, you need a TBD full underwriting approval from the legendary team at Hamilton Home Loans. You'll shorten or even remove your financing contingency, and the sellers will know that your offer is very real and ready to go. It's tough out there, folks, so why not have the advantage of a proven winning team in your huddle? Get pre-approval underwriting from my friends, the legendary team at Hamilton Home Loans. Call them today. It's 844-FSU-LOAN, 844-FSU-LOAN, or just visit FSUHomeLoans.com, FSUHomeLoans.com.
Equal housing lender. NMLS number 200719.
Hey, this is Dustin Rivas. During the pandemic, I noticed restaurants struggling with online ordering and watched as all the major third parties took advantage of our local restaurants and thought there must be a better way, which is why I created foodiestakeout.com. The unique thing about Foodies Takeout is that restaurants keep 100% of their order revenue versus splitting upwards of 30% with the third parties like Uber Eats and Bite Squad. At Foodies Takeout, you can find some of your favorite restaurants, such as Jerry's Midtown Cafe, Miss D's Kitchen in Frenchtown, Casa Grande, and even El Jalisco. Or if you're on the north side of town, check out Horizons Bar and Grill. Why not give us a try? Head to foodiestakeout.com or text foodies to 230-9456, and I'll even give you 10% off your first meal. Supporting local restaurants has never been easier. Visit foodiestakeout.com.
Now go call Seminole Glass. They'll get on the road and get it done fast.
Your local family-owned glass company, serving the Big Bend for over 15 years. At Seminole Auto Glass, we care about your safety. Insurance will send you wherever it benefits them, not the quality of service. There's a difference in auto glass companies. Trust your local auto glass experts. Seminole Auto Glass.
They handle any kind of broken glass, and you know who they are.
Better call Seminole.
Thank you for calling the Medicare Help Desk. How can we help you?
Can you help me choose the right coverage for myself and my wife?
We sure can. We can help you choose from Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage, or standalone prescription drug plans from over 30 different insurance carriers.
How much does it cost? We have a fixed income and can't afford extra expenses.
At the Medicare Help Desk, the consultation is completely free. We are here to help.
Thank you, Medicare Help Desk.
Hi, this is Justin Colvin, founder of the Medicare Help Desk. In my 17 years of experience, I routinely speak to seniors who are overwhelmed by the multitude of coverage options available to them. That's why I created the Medicare Help Desk, a place for you to get clear answers to all your questions and make sense of all the confusion. I've helped thousands of clients, and I live right here in Tallahassee with my family. I am active in my church and wish to help and serve my community. If you need help navigating the Medicare landscape, I'm easy to find. Just visit the MedicareHelpDesk.com. That's the MedicareHelpDesk.com.
Your body is a masterpiece designed to heal itself from within. Learn how to maximize your health by tuning in to Phenomenal Health with me, Dr. Ryan Finn. Saturdays at 2:30. Experience true health today and call Finn Chiropractic at 386-7700.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
If you love, I don't know, it's certain innocence factors in people. Like, I think one of the reasons that we end up falling in love with certain players is if they're able, and this is in any sport. So this could be football, could be basketball, could be baseball. My next example is going to be baseball, but you don't even have to like baseball to understand what I'm talking about here. I always hate to have to do that caveat these days because I understand there's a massive segment of my audience, the demo that's under the age of 40, that's like, Jeff, going to go down the road to baseball again? Probably like you do when I do golf, but I talk about everything. So anyhow, this is more of an observation. When I was much younger, one of the reasons that I loved Ken Griffey Jr. was, especially early versions of Ken Griffey Jr. before he was jaded, is that he played the game with an unbridled passion and zeal for the sport that you could tell he loved to be out there. He loved to play. And I think anytime you watch anybody do anything, it could be a musician, it could be something you recognize in a painter's art, like you just see it jumps off the canvas. You can It's in the words. It's in the prose of your favorite writer. It's a poet. It's whatever, right? And I've seen it in watching track. I've watched guys and women run, and some of them look robotic. Some of that's technique. Some of that is obviously running the most efficient manner possible, because the difference between winning and losing in that sport is milliseconds. But other people do that too, and they seem to do it with real joy. Like it's something that they have to do. It's like they do it as if they're remembering something they've done before and needed to do their whole life. And when we recognize that in athletes, we gravitate towards it. We watch people chase their dreams in that way, and it's unfettered. Now, they get bogged down by fame if they have a ton of success, and they're on the cover of video games and magazines and websites everywhere, and they're getting pulled and pushed every direction. Their agents are telling them about how much more money they could make if they do this, this, and this. They have to present a certain type of image. And slowly but surely, it kind of gets weaned out of them. It kind of gets pushed away. And in essence, all you have then is the player, not the person with the passion that is that player, but just the player. And the player may be very well good enough to continue down that path and make tons of money and be uber productive because their talents are such that they're preternaturally gifted. They're faster than you and me, and they're faster than their competitors. They're taller. They can jump higher. They can do whatever that might be. It could be swing speed, could be whatever. But it's no longer, and you can always recognize it, it's no longer nearly as fun to root for those players or even teams. Because there are teams that take on, it's easier to see this in basketball, where 5 starters and maybe 8 guys, 9 guys are major contributors to the success of a basketball team. So you see it in the NBA. Like, I think the Memphis Grizzlies are fun because they're all so young and they know they're good and they're brash and they're talented. And they had a comeuppance against Golden State this year after they got a little cocky, but they didn't care. They were so fun, right? To me, I could embrace that team. I can root for that team. I can love to watch that team. Individuals, players. Why do I bring it up? We're not having enough conversations about how badass Shohei Ohtani is. We need to celebrate all things Shohei Ohtani. Now, I bring this up for multiple reasons, but let me quote to you because you may not have recognized this. Unfortunately, he plays out in Anaheim, and half the time, most people don't get to see him, and that's a shame. It's just like Mike Trout. Continued his recent run of dominance on the mound, allowing 1 unearned run while striking out 10 Angels, 5-2 over the 10 Marlins, I should say, 5-2 victory over Miami on Wednesday night. He's not allowed an earned run. Shohei Ohtani is not allowed an earned run over his last 28 2/3 innings pitched, the 3rd longest streak by an Angel starter within a season in the last 50 years. It's the 4th straight start without allowing an earned run, and his 3rd with at least 10 strikeouts and 0 earned runs. He's the 6th pitcher to accomplish this feat since it became official. Earned runs did, and the first since Jacob deGrom in 2018-2019. Quote, "I didn't change much. The most important thing is I made my pitches when I had to make my pitches. I think it's huge when you're winning, and I'm pitching because I'm part of a ball club, and we're winning when I pitch." Yeah, well, that's an understatement. He's 8-4. He's won his 5th consecutive start, limited the Marlins to 2 hits. During his current stretch of successful outings, Ohtani has an ERA of 0.27. He's limited opponents to 16 hits and 33 2/3 innings. And he talks about how all he ever really worries about is keeping his body in the best possible condition it can be in. He wants to be fully healthy so that I can go out and win games for my team. And I think it's sincere. And have you ever seen somebody who not only dominates in that way, and we're not even talking about what he is as an offensive player, which is absurd. This is truly Ruthian. All of this is Ruthian. We've never seen a player like this since, Babe Ruth. It's insane. And he always does it with a massive smile on his face, like he just got away with a prank of some sort. Like, I'm pulling this over on you guys. You don't even understand. This is easy for me. And I love the joy that you're getting out of this. Like, watch him dominate an inning and see as he walks off the field, no real menacing scowls towards his opponents or anything like that, just sheer joy because of the reaction of his teammates. When the catcher points to him, when the manager comes out of the dugout to shake his hand and let him know that's it for tonight, when the players run in from the outfield and pat him on the back, the joy he feels from their satisfaction. It is so cool and so rare. I just want you to take the time to watch Shohei Ohtani play baseball, because it could be any sport. It could be any sport. But it's so seldom that you see somebody do this in a way where you feel their joy, their passion, their childlike enthusiasm for the game that they play. And that's what we grew up loving. It's what we did when we played sports as kids. And then, somewhere along the way, even in high school sports, it gets kind of silly. You get parents lobbying for things get political and all that. So by the time a guy gets to the majors, it's very rare, or the NFL, whatever it might be, even big-time college football. It's when you find those guys, you got to latch on to them. They're rare. There needs to be more of them. I wish there were more of them. I'm afraid that not many people are equipped with the personality of Shohei Ohtani. And I don't know, Matthew, do you think that perhaps some of this is that there is some language barrier? There is sort of, he's insulated from some of the things that could make one jaded, because there is a buffer between him and those things in the way of an interpreter, in a way of those that obviously are tasked with the responsibility of protecting him as an international superstar. I don't know if that's what it is, but none of that has gotten to him. Like, I've never seen anybody since Ken Griffey Jr. maybe happier to play baseball.
Well, there's certainly a positive barrier, at least from the fans' perspective, I would say. But it seems like to me, whenever I watch him or the Angels play, and it seems like his positivity and joy of the game really exudes and rubs off on not just the Angels, but also the opposing team.
That's crazy, but you're right.
He's pitching, and he just, he makes whoever it is look like a complete fool. They're laughing. They're joking back and forth as they're walking back to the dugout. And I think that's really something that baseball has missed for a long time. It got to the point of rivalry to a negative degree, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I see that. I think you're right. I mean, intimidation became a focal point for pitchers to the extent that it was bordering on aggression that crosses the line over that of being competitive and dominant, and that end up being confrontational. So, yeah, I see what you're talking about. And it's funny because you remember, and I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but a lot of people listening to this will remember John Crook batting from the left side against Randy Johnson in the All-Star game, and Randy Johnson intentionally throws it 100 miles per hour over his head on the first pitch, and he kind of gives him that little smirk, that little smile, and Crook cracks up laughing and turns his hat backwards. Is like, yeah, no, I got no chance. I'm not. That was kind of, that joy is what you see, and the fun-loving nature of that interaction. You're exactly right. That's what you see with Shohei. The hitters think it's funny. They think it's kind of, I mean, look, they want to win, but if somebody's going to throw 5 different pitches for strikes, 2 of which move more than anybody else is in the league, you just tip your cap. It's an appreciation.
Yeah, it makes no sense that the guy in the previous half inning that just hit a 3-run bomb 450 feet is going to come up here and make a professional hitter look like a complete fool.
It's cool. It's Ruthian. Go watch Shohei Ohtani, everybody. I just wanted to point out something that brings me joy. And as a sports fan, I think it'll bring you joy. It's the Jeff Cameron Show. It's all for the future at the moment. 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
WIC provides commercial, residential, and industrial electrical wiring services, yearly inspections on fire alarms, portable generator sales, and so much more. With 24/7 emergency service and repair, Weston Trawick will be your calm in the storm. Give them a call at 514-0003. Weston Trawick. Professional electrical services day or night. Visit online at westontrawick.com.
Hey, Nole fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Every great construction project, whether it's a new addition or renovation, starts with a plan. At T-Spark, we are excited when our clients contact us to assist with that plan. Through our team of architects, draftsmen, engineers, we can help you with your project's planning and design, potentially saving costs in the long run. Whether you have a residential or commercial project, we look forward to working with you. Call us today or visit us at tsparkconstruction.com. License number CGC 1525336.
Crawfordville Auto and Tire, Crawfordville Auto and Tire. Oh, hey there. I was just singing the praises of Crawfordville Auto and Tire. They do just about everything. Complete engine rebuilds, brakes, shocks, tires, oil change, you name it, they do it. And they offer a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty on all parts and labor. Most of the time, they can service your car the same day and offer towing to help you get to the shop. Now that's something to sing about. Open weekdays from 7:30 in the morning until 6 at night. Crawfordville Auto Repair and Tires.
Welcome back, Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, and of course, Warchant TV. Today's show kind of serving as a Libations Friday edition of the program. We got no Dukes. We got nobody left. Director Matthew's been a warrior today, but he is fighting being under the weather. Tom is on vacation, and we have other members of the Warchant staff that have been struggling with their own illnesses. So it's that time of year. Everybody's getting sick. I just got over getting sick. I fear I got everybody else sick. So no show tomorrow, no Libations Friday edition. So we turn today into a little bit of a Libation Thursday conversation, if you will. Speaking of conversation, it is time to solve for the future on the Jeff Cameron Show with our partners at ISF. You guys know about ISF. I talk about them frequently. I'll give you a little bit more of what they do. ISF, by the way, reminding you about hurricane preparedness, of course. They look out for the community. They want you to be prepared when hurricanes and other weather disasters strike. And so dating back all the way to when we were in May, when they did the spot about and worked with our friends at the Second Harvest of the Big Bend, and they were handing out free food and hurricane supply buckets with the essentials that you need. So you need to be prepared. That doesn't go away just because we're now in July. So make a plan, be prepared. You can visit isf.com to learn more. ISF, solving for the future, and they're a strategy firm. 40 years they've served state government, business clients across the nation, and they have unmatched expertise, and they develop strategies, evaluate and refine processes, implement technology solutions. They're realistic and forward thinking. You've got big visions. You want to do amazing things. You've got great goals for the future, and you want to work hard to move your agency forward while navigating challenges inherent in government operations. That's where ISF comes in. They can help you realize that vision. All right, so basically, when we talk about solving for the future, I want to turn your attention to the conversation just keeps going on this. I brought it up last hour, but a lot of really good reporting going on right now in The Athletic and other places, because you can look nationally, and then we, of course, bring it back locally on this show with the Jeff Cameron Show and how it affects Florida State. And so even though, like, right now, maybe you're looking at, well, most people who cover college football are certainly looking at Notre Dame. What's Notre Dame going to do? The thought right now is that ESPN is fighting like hell to try to convince Notre Dame to join the ACC full-time. And the reason is, of course, they have the ACC network, and the rights to ACC football. And they know that the media ratings for Notre Dame are exceptional. And even though the rest of the ACC did not rate worth a damn, Notre Dame did. Notre Dame did. And if Notre Dame ends up going to the Big Ten, remember the Big Ten, largely kind of run by Fox, an investment in the Big Ten network, then they fear that they'll lose out on that Notre Dame jump in terms of ratings, that Notre Dame spike, that attention, those eyes on sets. And we continue to talk about this being about brands. And so this is great for Florida State, because it's no longer solely about it. The belief no longer is solely about markets. The last go around, excuse me, the last major shift in dynamics in college football, a lot of it had to do with markets. And so the thought was, when you looked at Florida State, you started to worry. You started to wring your hands. You started to think, well, that's how Rutgers got in the Big Ten. That's how Maryland got in the Big Ten, because they wanted those markets, allegedly, right? And you can debate that. The ACC has Syracuse. Do you have New York because you have Syracuse? Not really. Not really. They don't really care. You have Boston because you have Boston College. So those debates, does the Big Ten really have New York because they have Rutgers? Well, you definitely have LA if you have USC. So the Big Ten made that move. But this has shifted. This has been about brands. And now it's about, because again, you're trying to negotiate the best possible television deal. And I thought The Athletic did a good job today on a couple of fronts. First of all, if you get back to, when you think about what universities are and what conferences are, and you think about the way that they're viewed now, it's fascinating, because you're selling almost like I guess you could say, to some extent, you're selling a television show. And you go, I'm going to quote you from the Athletic story, because I think this sums it up better than I'm doing right now. Michael Martin, quote, saw the future in 2011. Martin is the president of Florida Gulf Coast University, but 11 years ago, he served as a chancellor at LSU. 11 years ago, at LSU, who's football crazy, obviously a region of the country that loves football, he had a meeting with the Knight Commission on intercollegiate athletics at the Ritz-Carlton in Washington, D.C. So this is in 2011. And this is what he said, which turned out to be pretty prescient. Quote, I think we could ultimately end up with two enormous conferences, one called ESPN and one called Fox. That piece was written by Adam Himmelsbach, then of the New York Times, now of the Boston Globe. Quote, I'm not exactly sure what we do about it. Went on to talk about the television money driving all of it. ESPN owns exclusive college football playoff rights through 2025, 2026. They own the SEC network. They will soon have all of the SEC's media rights through 2034. Fox Sports will be the Big Ten's main media rights holder, majority of the Big Ten network. You can go read the Sports Business Journal. John Orand, I should say, pointed this out. There are no bigger forces, no more larger forces in college football than ESPN and Fox right now. And when they went on to talk about how, okay, so now you have super leagues and you get into how is that sold? How is that consumed? Who's watching? Do you even need ESPN anymore if you're the Big Ten? Probably not. Does this become a thing where that league fights for, and let's say however many teams there are in that league, for a champion, and what emerges is that champion, and then over here is the SEC, however many teams that ends up being, and that fight plays out, and can we agree upon letting those two teams then play like a Super Bowl, if you will, like the NFL? They go on to talk about the sellers of TV rights and the brands and what you would need to do, obviously, to put yourself in a position, obviously, to be part of something that is gobbled up as part of this live sports purchase. So that could be Apple, that could be Google, that could be Amazon, that can be, you name it, Netflix, right? People want programming, and live sports programming works. And you want to have the most, for lack of a better term, sexy product, right? What is your program? Is it Housewives of Atlanta? Is it whatever it is, right? Because the streaming services now run the world. And so it is that you no longer really need cable per se, plugged in cable. So will Florida State find a landing spot because they enhance the brand and the overall package being sold to the kinds of streaming services we're talking about? And it could end up being, of course, just ESPN, could be Fox, could be whatever. The answer is yes. So the future for Florida State is going to be solved by whatever transpires next in these television negotiations. Remember, the Big Ten's negotiation was supposed to have already been done and completed by now. It kept getting pushed back. We thought we would have heard something before now. And the fact that it hasn't been signed and announced yet tells me and you that basically these negotiations, including the negotiation the Big Ten just had with USC and UCLA, have had a lot of wrinkles to them. And they're forward thinking. They're not going to sign anything just yet until they figure out what gives them the most desirability, right? What can you then go to Fox with and say, hey, we have LA, we have New York. By the way, we've enhanced our brand. We want this much. And every time you make that move and you gobble up more teams of significance that have a significant brand or represent a market the size of LA, then you are increasing the likelihood that you ask for more money. Well, that means they're not going to stand pat. They're going to want to continue to enhance that. And the SEC is not going to stand pat. They're going to want to counter the Big Ten because they too want the money. It's about the money. So we'll end up, as we solve for the future with our friends from ISF, we'll end up in one of those two locales. That's where this is going. That Florida State is a huge brand. So is, say, Miami and Clemson. So is North Carolina. We're all going to end up in one of these two super conferences. It's not something that you have to like. It's just something you have to try to understand and know that it's going to happen. And because it's going to happen, it should put your mind at ease. Florida State's not going to get left out in the lurch because it's no longer solely about markets. It's about brands and what you package and sell for the most amount of money. And whatever you do to enhance that brand, and in this case, add teams, certainly allows you to make more money. And I think that's, now we're just waiting. Now it's a waiting game. It's certainly not going to impact, we don't think, certainly this season. But I think before football kicks off this year, we'll get another bombshell. That's Solving for the Future from our friends at ISF. It's the Jeff Cameron Show. We'll come back, wrap it up momentarily, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
If you heard the sound, Untitled Jewelry's the best in town. Rings, diamonds, earrings, bracelets, and more. Untitled Jewelry store.
Hey
Hey, this is Greg Tish. I want to tell you about my first experience at Pentaltha Jewelry. It was many, many years ago, and my grandparents took me up there for a special occasion to buy me a necklace. I still remember how amazing the customer service was. Fast forward to today, and I can still go in there and get the same great customer service at Pentaltha Jewelry. Nothing has changed, not even their location, 2903 Appalachia Parkway, where they've always been. Now sing along with me, and I'll see you at Pentaltha Jewelry.
Pentaltha Jewelry, Pentaltha Jewelry, Pentaltha Jewelry, all the real nice guys.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Physical stress on our bodies can take its toll as the years go by. Whether you're looking to get back into an old sport or just want to spend more time outdoors to explore all life has to offer in our beautiful city, the dedicated team at TOC is here for you every step of the way. You can trust TOC for all your orthopedic needs. And now, scheduling an appointment has never been easier. Just visit teamtoc.com and click schedule online. That's teamtoc.com.
This is Kyle, Service Manager from Barano Heating and Air. Schedule an appointment from your mobile device to learn about our Total Comfort Service Program. With guaranteed same-day service, 15% off necessary repairs, and $25 berry bucks to use towards air filters and other products. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air. Any day, anytime, anywhere. Online at baranoac.com.
Florida license CAC 1816-186.
Well. Hey, Jeff, look at this place. Yeah. Well, doing well. It's been a while since I've seen you, brother, but, it hasn't been a while since I've been over to Gordo's. I go there on the regular because of you, Eddie. Well, we keep you regular. Well, that's true, but I think of Gordo's as a place to sit down, have a cold beer, talk to your friends, enjoy the sports, eat the delicious food. But I think of you as Uncle Eddie, a man who takes care of his people and takes care of the town. I appreciate that, Jeff. Hey, and we'll keep you regular. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 19...
Coming up.
Wrapping it up, Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Thanks for being patient with us today. Less than ideal circumstances. We're having to ship and shape and move and do things differently. I wanted to get content out to you today. We're off tomorrow. We're back with you on Monday. The world returns to normal a little bit, and we start hitting the ground running because, again, we're moving ever closer to the start of Florida State football practice. We also have an opportunity to head to Charlotte here real soon, just past the midway point of the month, and do what we do from Charlotte, which is glean more information about what the hell's going to happen to a dying conference in the ACC, and do they do something to find a life raft, or is there a seismic shift? Are they reconfiguring? It's funny. Before I get to probables, we're talking about, and Andy Staples does a really good job on this stuff, and he was talking about, and I've talked to Andy about this before, but he just did an interview with Richard Deitch, and he's talking about the superpowers, and that that there's a book out there that you can read that kind of talked about how the Premier League was formed, and it's very similar to what's happening now with college football here. And he goes back to 1984 when the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, ruled in favor of Georgia and the University of Oklahoma against the NCAA, which had control over everybody's football TV rights at the time. And now we're kind of going back towards a single seller of TV rights, or two sellers of TV rights. And he's noting that when the Supreme Court broke that up, everybody started selling their own rights as conferences. That's how the consolidation began. So conference consolidation and realignment. has really been going on since the 80s. And you can look at the early 90s when the SEC added Arkansas and South Carolina. It's a fun little history lesson. You're reminded of these things. You knew these things. But then when you see it in front of you, it's kind of fun to talk about again, because I can remember, most of you can. Maybe my younger demo doesn't remember this, but when Arkansas and South Carolina went to the SEC in the early 90s, I don't know that it raised too big an eyebrow. Not the way it is now, but now we've just, we forget about those things. The Big Ten added Penn State, Florida State, of course we know this, joined the ACC, right? And it, at that point, nobody really wanted to be independent anymore. They wanted a home. The Big East picked up, some of the other East Coast dependents. In the 2000s, the ACC began to raid the Big East. John Swofford, commissioner of the ACC, kind of realized it was a kill or be killed deal, because here's the thing, right? The Big East was going to raid the ACC. So the ACC said, no, you're not. We're going to raid you. And they did. And that was the end of the Big East in essence. Larry Scott becomes the commissioner of the Pac-10. He tries to negotiate a deal with the Big 12, and he's going to bring in Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma State. He was going to raid the Big 12, and basically that would have been the ruination of the Big 12. But De Los Dodds of Texas said, nay, and used his ass, pulled the okey doke, and got the Longhorn Network. And so all of a sudden Larry Scott got played. And then Texas A&M and Missouri were like, well, this is untenable. We can't do this. And they decided to leave. So they go to the SEC. And on and on and on and on we go. And what you figure out is you just have to look out for number one. You just have to look out for number one. And at this point for Florida State, obviously, you're trying to figure that out right now. And I can assure you that there are active maneuvers. There's only so much you can do with the Grant Wright situation serving as the albatross around the neck of its institutions like Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and others who would seek to leave here. But I do think that once this thing gets moving the way that it has, and once it started basically with Texas and Oklahoma, and now this massive move that we've talked about all week and we'll continue to talk about as we await the next big shoe to drop, once that happened, you realize we're too far down the tracks. There's nothing that's going to stand in the way, not even the grant rights, from the kind of progress and mega bucks we're talking about with these two super leagues. Now, to baseball, before we get to probables, point you to a Jeff Passan piece on ESPN. Passan's a great writer, does a very good job covering baseball. I want you to read the piece simply because you're going to fall in love with a pitcher named Alek Manoah, who's 6'6", 285 pounds. And I meant to bring this up yesterday, but he thinks it sucks that the horse, the stud, the ace, the pitchers of yesteryear are no more, that pitch counts rule the day, and an exercise of caution beyond reason seems to be the norm. So we're at a place right now where, hey, 84 pitches and 5 1/3 is the average start. By the way, that's for a starting pitcher, 84.4 pitchers, 10 fewer than the standard that's held for the last 10 years. And it doesn't last even 6 innings. It used to. Of course, can you imagine, and I had this conversation the other day with somebody, can you imagine walking to the mound and telling John Smoltz or Greg Maddux, for you Braves fans locally, that at 80 pitches in the 7th inning of a 1-run game, it was time for him to come out? They would have looked at you like you were, Matt, walk out and tell Nolan Ryan that his day's up in a 1-1 game in the 6th because he's thrown 100 pitches. Right. Wouldn't happen. And it's not good for baseball. Now, there's a balance. You need to use the math, but a lot of it is seemingly overly cautious. You have arguments even amongst pitching coaches currently about how many pitches is too many pitches, and can you build somebody up to a place where they can comfortably throw 100 pitches each night out? Listen, that was baseball's marquee attraction, were aces, sluggers and aces. That's what it was. You knew on the night that you were going to go see Curt Schilling, no matter how much big a jerk he was, you were going to go see a battler, a guy who was going to fight. Pedro Martinez, go tell Pedro Martinez it's time to come out in the 6th because he's thrown 90 pitches, right? That quote from Manoah that you'll love, and I can't repeat it verbatim, is, I'm a big effing guy. I'm strong as a horse. I'm built for this. I can take some hits, man. It's all right. If you don't let a pitcher pitch, you're never going to build him up. You're never going to let him struggle. I say this is all the time. I can get my ass kicked. I'll bounce back. I've got that dog in me. I want to be out there. I'll learn from it, and I'll go from there. Alek Alex Manoah, you're my man. I'm now rooting for you over and over and over again. And all those efforts to keep pitchers healthier by limiting their workloads have failed. Arm injuries remain as passing rights, omnipresent. $100 million in salary this season, lost the time on the injured list from pitchers already, and we're not at the halfway point. So it's not working. 80 pitches, 109 pitches, 84 pitches. It's about the stress of those pitches, the situation, how long are you removed, how far removed are you from your last surgery? Do you have other injuries that you're accommodating? Have you already had Tommy John? Because if you haven't, you're going to. If you're a pitcher, at some point it's going to happen. Then you bounce back from that. And how far removed are you from that? It's fascinating. Let's get to probables. Cue it up. I know it is time. I've prattled on long enough about this, but I'm just glad that somebody is pushing back and saying, look, man, it doesn't seem to me that all of this overly cautious exercise in order to salvage and save pitchers is doing any good. We're seeing just as many injuries. A lot of day baseball today. As I get to probables, Royals, Astros already underway. Chris Bubik, Justin Verlander, Pirates, Reds, part of a doubleheader. It's a makeup from back in May. Renzi Contreras going for the Pirates. That's nice to see. Mike Minor going for the Reds. Nats, Phillies, Joan Adone and Bailey Falter. We've got the Angels and the Orioles. Chase Silseth, Jordan Lyles. Pirates, Reds again in second part of that doubleheader. It's a day-night doubleheader. Bryce Wilson going for the Buccos. Reds to be determined. Marlins, Mets. Daniel Castano going for the Marlins. Mets will throw Trevor Williams. Yankees, Red Sox. You'll have to shove down your throat by ESPN, but it is a fun rivalry. Two good teams. Garrett Cole, who's been sensational as usual, going against Josh Winkowski. He too has been good. Cardinals, Braves, Matthew Liberatore and Spencer Strider. Tigers, White Sox, Obrisky, Dylan Cease. Rockies, D-backs, Austin Gomber, Dallas Keuchel. Giants, Padres, Logan Webb, Joe Musgrove. So you know, 8-2 with a 2.25 this year, nearly 100 strikeouts. It's Pirate. Cubs, Dodgers, Mark Leiter Jr. and Tony Gonsolin. And Blue Jays, Mariners, to be determined for the Blue Jays tonight. That's the late game out west, 10-10 start time. Marco Gonzalez is going for the Mariners, and that is, or Mariners as they call themselves. That is a look at those that shall reside on the bump. Okay, so like I said, no Jeff Cameron show tomorrow. We're back with you on Monday. It's a full go. Tom's back from vacation. Hopefully, Matthew, you're feeling better. And you guys, I hope, have a great weekend. Looking forward to it. Heats up even more next week with football-related material. So we're going to survive, guys. We're going to make it. I hope you have a great week. Thanks for listening today. Appreciate you. Be well. Talk to you again on Monday. Peace.